Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Family Sedan channel. When it comes to investing, it pays to be invested in something that ultimately takes off before the masses agree that this is something that makes sense. This is something of true value. And I feel as it pertains to XRP, this is one such opportunity and a major one. You know, we're at the beginning, so far as I'm concerned, of the adoption of a brand new asset class. And I know, fine, crypto's been around 13 years. It's in its nascency still. I firmly believe you're talking about 3 to 4% of humans having ever bought a cryptocurrency at any point in time. That's almost nobody. And even fewer, way fewer, I think way less than 1% of humans on the planet have ever held XRP for any moment in time. But where's the money flowing? Because I'll tell you this, for those people who are paying attention to the developments that are unfolding before our very eyes, and if you're listening to this channel, I'm willing to bet that you're one of those very people actually paying attention, and kudos to you for doing so. You know, it's just interesting to see where people who are paying attention are allocating their money. And so there's a couple headlines here I want to highlight in this video. There's this one from you today. Is Ripple ready? Swift's latest innovation targets 500 banks in 120 countries. And I want to share with you a story from a former Ripple employee. His name is Bob Way. And he shared it yesterday. It's the first time I had ever seen this story from him. But it's about why, it's a very short story, but about why Swift changed their entire marketing approach. And it's because of Ripple entering the marketplace. You know, something that can shake things up for the first time in about half a century. Ripple jumps in. And they're like, oh, wow, we better do something here. And it's funny because according to Bob Way, it sounds like what he had to say had direct ramifications on this. Because he actually spoke and shared Ripple's ideas face to face with then Swift CEO, what's his name? I'll get his name. It's like God. I think his last name's Godfrey LeBrant, Godfrey, something like that. I'll get it later in the video. But I just found that to be so interesting. And then when you're talking about, again, where's the money going? Well, take a look at this headline from the Crypto Basic. Ripple named top selling company on private investment platform. Now, why might that be? Why might Ripple itself be one of the top selling companies on a private investment platform? Well, look, I've been saying for a long time that XRP is at the core of everything that Ripple does, and I think people buying Ripple understand that I mean, they're building technology literally on top of the XRP ledger. And so I don't know if staff at Ripple would characterize what they're doing as being with XRP at the core of what they're doing. That's just the way that I'm characterizing it, because to me that seems to be the case. I don't know if they'd agree with that or object to that in any capacity, but that is what it looks like to me. All these considerations, the way that RippleNet's been developed and how they're going to market with that and on-demand liquidity, it seems that XRP's been at the core, certainly in terms of thought, of everything that they're doing here. And so where's the money flowing? Well, people that are paying attention, it's into XRP and things that touch XRP, in this case Ripple, and there are other developers building on top of the ledger, but I'm talking about this one right now. So before going further, though, I do want to be clear. I do not have a financial background of any kind. I'm not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. I did want to highlight this quickly, and with any luck, this will be the last update on this line of stories. But there's a brand new headline again. This one's from the Crypto Basic, titled "Hoskinson says XRP community is toxic and petty. Ripple CTO responds." All right, so I put out another video on this topic yesterday. I mean, as long as it's in the news, you know I'm going to be talking about it. But I want to be quick about it because I'm kind of tired of talking about it, to be honest, but I feel like I need to cover this. And some of it's funny, too, to be honest with you. But I put out a video yesterday highlighting that, what Charles Hoskinson said, and he had a tweet that said that, here, I can just pull it up right here. He said, in part, that XRP provides no partnership or technical value. So he's ripping on XRP because he's butthurt about what he perceives as injustices towards him in terms of behavior from the XRP community, that whole thing. I'll just have to assume that you're caught up to speed at this point in time. But he's calling the XRP community toxic and petty, but he will not stop talking about XRP. He won't stop digging against the community. And then he wonders why people just won't stop talking to him about it when he's publicly stating this. As if he's the only one that's allowed to say anything, and then there's supposed to be no responses or no disagreement, right? Well, David Schwartz, Ripple CTO, co-creator of the XRP ledger, responded to Charles Hoskinson, and he had a really interesting tweet, and I don't know exactly what this means. Hopefully we'll find out in short order, but he wrote the following: "You may want to wait a few days, read this tweet back, and think about whether you're sure that's the combination of things you really want to say." That's the tweet from David Schwartz. So what's going to unfold in the next few days that would make him think, I don't pretend to know, but it was interesting to see David Schwartz jumping in. So I thought at a minimum, I better just at least acknowledge that. And, Charles Hoskinson's approach, he's been saying this forever, though. Every time he gets butthurt about something going on, the man-child says, I'm done talking about XRP. I'm never going to talk about XRP again. Blah, blah, blah. And then what happens? He just talks about XRP again. Now, this is the closest he's gotten to not talking about or engaging in anything having to do with what's been unfolding ever. This is the closest he's gotten. He failed, but then he deleted his fail and then typed in no comment. What am I talking about? Well, there's an XRP community member. I came across this tweet from XRP community member Chad Garlic House, who wrote, Charles just blocked me for posting his original tweet to David. He deleted it after 1 minute. That's right. So Charles Hoskinson, Ethereum co-founder and founder of Cardano, who hates XRP and the XRP community and thinks that XRP is worthless suddenly because he got his feels hurt, he did actually have a response to David Schwartz when David Schwartz wrote that, and then he deleted it a minute later. But there's a screen grab caught by Chad Garlic House, and here's what the now deleted tweet reads. It says, from Charles Hoskinson to David Schwartz, David, I respect and admire the work you do. My statements are the brutal and unnecessary wave of bile and toxicity that's come my way. Life's too short, so it's just no comment from here on out. That should finally end it. And I know that sentence was broken. That's not me messing up. That's just how he wrote it. So that's what he said. And then he deleted it, and then he responded with 2 words, no comment. So he's getting closer to following through. He's not quite there. He's getting closer to following through on his promise of not engaging in anything on any topic having to do with anything Ripple and or XRP. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. I think at some point in the future, especially when there's settlement between the SEC and Ripple, he says he's going to say no comment when that happens. I don't believe him. And here's a very funny, for anybody that can look at your screen, it's worth doing so. There have been so many baby memes going around of Charles Hoskinson. There's just a little baby with little Charles Hoskinson beard on him. Come on, now that is funny. That's legitimately funny. Like, what can you do, though, but poke a little fun? It's not like it's hateful. We're just poking a little fun because Charles Hoskinson is being an adult baby. And the whole community can see this. And so this was shared by a community member named Danny Minter, who wrote, how could anyone be so mean to our little man-child? Look, it's funny. And look, he brought all of this on himself. I've talked about this ad nauseum. I don't want to go to it any further, but I felt a desire to share with you the latest. But now into this from the Crypto Basic, Ripple named top-selling company on private investment platform. And now, mind you, like I said at the outset, everything that Ripple's doing, this is my personal opinion, is has XRP at the core, and not literally find their little side things, but I think that there's always at a minimum in the back of mind, something having to do with XRP, because I do think it's absolutely crucial to what Ripple's doing here, and I don't think that many would dispute that. I just don't know if anybody at Ripple would agree or disagree with that characterization, but that's what it's always seemed like to me, and that's how I've always articulated over the last several years or so. And so you think about what Charles Hoskinson said, which, again, the quote being here from that one sentence, XRP provides no partnership or technical value. Okay, well, the people who are buying Ripple, the company, clearly disagree with you because, again, as I see it anyway, XRP is at the core of what's going on here, and people are seeing a very positive and prosperous future for Ripple moving forward. And so I just wanted to highlight that. But anyway, the piece reads as follows. Leading private investment firm Link2 has named Ripple Labs among the top-selling companies on its platform. In a tweet today, Link2 said Ripple, Uphold, and PolySign are the top-selling companies on the investment platform. Quote, Ripple, PolySign, and Uphold are our top-selling companies on the platform, end quote, Link2 noted. And so y'all know who Ripple is. Many of you will recall who PolySign is, what PolySign is, just in case you don't, though. It's a new company, which is pretty well shrouded in mystery, but it was founded by David Schwartz and Arthur Brito, 2 of the 3 creators of XRP and the XRP Ledger. I'm not sure if there are additional founding members, but my understanding is that from a legal perspective, those 2 are literally the founders of PolySign. And they've got non-disclosure agreements among people who are working on the project, including David Schwartz, so he can't say much, even though they've been working on it for years. But what I do know is that, because it's publicly available, PolySign is all about custody And I don't know specifically it's going to be heavier on retail or the institutional side. Maybe it's both, but maybe heavier on the institutional side. I don't know. I can only hazard a guess, and I'm not really certain. But so there's another. It's just funny how, like, in some ways they're kind of related. So there's Ripple, obviously, David Schwartz being the CTO there, and then there's, he's a founder of PolySign, and then you've got Uphold, which is just a very pro XRP cryptocurrency exchange, one of only 3 exchanges in the United States where you can still purchase XRP due to the SEC actions. So I just find that fascinating. But again, look where the money is flowing, and it's going to Ripple. Sorry, Charles Hoskinson, but you're just making up nonsense because you got your feels hurt, and then you're saying garbage about XRP itself. Look, XRP did not attack you, Charles Hoskinson. It's terms of attacks. It's what? Well, I'll put it back up on the screen. The baby face memes with the beards, those are funny and cute, okay? It's kind of weird, but you know what I'm saying. It's funny at a minimum. It's funny at a minimum here, okay? Like, but these are the attacks you're talking about? Oh, so vicious. Oh my God, a baby with a beard. Oh, it's so vicious. Everyone's so cruel to me. Okay, gotcha. Well, life's going to move on without your participation in anything having to do with Ripple and or XRP. XRP's going to be just fine. In fact, take a look at this headline from you today. Is Ripple ready? Swift's latest innovation targets 500 banks in 120 countries. And I just wanted to know, I don't feel like reading the article, but I wanted to highlight part of what's covered here is what I was telling you about at the outset of the video, which is this story from former Ripple employee Bob Way, who years ago had a conversation with then Swift CEO Godfried. And Bob Way, he was one of Ripple's first employees, and I can't remember exactly at what point he left. It may have been like 5 years ago at this point. I can't remember. And nothing bad happened. He just parted ways for whatever the reason was. I just can't recall off the top of my head. But he was engaged in a thread, and he shared this little story here about why Swift did what they did. Because mind you, Swift, they hadn't innovated in half a century roughly. Because why would they? Where were the competitors? Who was coming in to disrupt the space? Well, suddenly Ripple existed. And Ripple, the company, existed thanks to the advent of cryptocurrency technology. And Swift, mind you, even though they kind of, I hesitate to even use the word innovate. They changed stuff. They marketed differently. Let's just say that. They marketed differently. I don't really want to call it innovation. They changed their approach, though. That's fair to say. That's accurate. But they never have come up with a solution for settlement specifically. They've come up with a solution, in air quotes, and somewhat better, for the messaging side of things, which would be the payment side. When you hear the word payments, what's really meant by payments is messaging. That's not the actual movement of money. When people say the payment has taken place, what is actually typically meant is that the messaging back and forth between involved parties has been conducted. And then after that agreement, that's when the money actually moves, and the movement of the money is called settlement. Swift has done nothing in terms of settlement. They haven't innovated there whatsoever. But they're reacting to Ripple, and they have been. And so here's what Bob Way had to say, literally just yesterday. And I'd never heard this story from him. But he said, GPI and Swift's response, GPI was, that's the name. So it's GPI. Oh, what the hell does that stand for now? Global Payments Innovation or Initiative. It's one of those. Global Payments Innovation, I think. Anyway, GPI was Swift's response to Ripple pitching banks. It was partially my fault because I spend a long time talking to Wim and Godfried at the Bitcoin Amsterdam conference, explaining how the XRP ledger worked and how banks can integrate with it. Seems I did a good job in getting them to understand, because not too long afterward, they had copied our entire pitch, almost slide for slide and diagram for diagram. Pause, folks. That's right. Swift ripped off Ripple. I did not know that. I had never heard this. Oh my gosh, think about that. They copied almost the entire pitch, because understand Ripple's technology, when you're talking about RippleNet, a portion of it is just the messaging side. On-demand liquidity is the settlement portion of that, utilizing XRP as a bridge currency. But when you're talking about RippleNet, just in and of itself, that's just a way better version of Swift in terms of a messaging system. And so like, oh, well, we could do that. I mean, and they pretty well can to whatever degree, because it's not involving a cryptocurrency, which they've pretty well sworn off to this point. And so they copied the pitch almost slide for slide and diagram for diagram. Like, oh, this is good. So the new competition comes in, and rather than actually innovate, they just copy it so that Ripple doesn't get too far out ahead of them, or at least that's what they're hoping, right? But they still, don't forget, they still never have come up with a solution for settlement. But anyway, Bob Way continues. But GPI wasn't new technology at all. It was merely an improved service level agreement, or SLA for short. The SLA said, in effect, quote, participating banks agree to process incoming SWIFT messages faster, end quote. But it didn't give them any new technology to make that happen. Banks had to update their own internal processes to speed them up. So pause and think about that. I've never seen this type of articulation of exactly what went on when Swift made this move with GPI. There's always this surface level stuff. They make it sound really grand in the press releases and this and that. And Bob was just kind of breaking it down. It's like, oh no, if you're part of this, you're agreeing to do a thing, basically. And you can understand as we go through this, you'll see why, especially based on time zones and the fact that banks are located all over the world, why for many banks, it's historically been an issue anyway. So anyway, Bob White continues. But again, so he said, but it didn't give them any new technology to make that happen. Banks had to update their own internal processes to speed them up. It is helpful if you think of Swift as Gmail. It is an interbank email service run by a single company. Originally, Swift was even responsible for the phone/data lines that connected physical locations. So think of Swift messages as being as fast as email. But with those emails being read and acted on by people whenever they chose to open their email box. Pause. Another way to word this is that it's fast if humans use the instantaneous technology, but this is not automated, which makes historically has made the messaging portion of this very slow. Very, very slow. That's what Bob Way is articulating here. And then he says, some banks were automated, others less so. Banks were in different time zones, and they didn't read email during non-business hours. The GPI SLA just said, if you have automated email processing and can meet these response requirements, you can call yourself a participant in the new GPI Faster Bank Group. Nothing really changed in the way messages were sent between banks. Think about that. And I didn't really realize the degree to which this was true because Swift, I've never seen a breakdown of how the sausage is made. But from what Bob Way is saying here, he's saying that there was no innovation from a technological perspective. It's just, we're going to agree to behave differently. We're going to put a stamp on it. We're going to call the new thing. We're going to call it GPI. That's what Swift did. I've never heard this. Again, I've been following what's going on with XRP and Ripple certainly for half a decade now. I haven't heard any Ripple employee talk about this. I've never heard anyone talk about this specifically. And it's just interesting when you get a glimpse behind the wall of what's actually going on here. It's all for optics. It's all for optics. Okay, you can be part of GPI, but you got to behave differently. You got to send these things right away. Send the messages. And then Bob says, again, nothing really changed in the way messages were sent between banks. GPI was a status thing among banks, perhaps more than a feature or profit thing. For Swift, it was competitive marketing against Ripple. It was intended to show that Swift was still the thought leader in the banking space. You gotta love this. The thought leader in the banking space, copying little old Ripple, which was the essence of a startup back then, certainly. You're talking over half a decade ago when this conversation would have taken place. And they just copied the new kid on the block and didn't create any new technology, but they're calling it GPI. And they still don't have a solution for settlement, folks. It's still the Nostra Vostra system. There is the only solution that humans have ever come up with requires the usage of a decentralized, technologically sufficient cryptocurrency that has an open market price. And the only one that's being positioned on the entire planet for such a use case happens to be XRP. So follow the money, don't you think? And that's not me telling you what to do. And it's certainly not financial advice. I'm just saying, when it comes to how humans are behaving, if you follow what they're doing, it's the flow of money where people are investing. It's just incredibly interesting here. Let me know what you think, but I'll go ahead and wrap up. I am not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Family Sedan.